Hey everybody, John Peterson here, and today I want to go through a few images of mine that I've selected from 2023 and talk to you a little bit about why I picked them. Now, like most folks, at the end of the year, I collected my favorites or my best, that type of stuff, and put together a slideshow, which you can see. I'll put a link for it up here. But in this video, I want to take a deep dive into just a few of those images and explain why I picked them. There's a lot of information out here about how to do stuff, but there's not a lot of information about what and why. And that's a little bit of what I'm trying to do here, is share some of my motivation into these images and why I picked them as some of my favorites. So let's go ahead and jump into the images, and I'll talk you through what I'm expressing here in these shots. All right, here's the first shot I have, and this is from downtown Reykjavik in Iceland. And before one of my workshops there, I was out walking around town, and we had just a wonderful sunset. And this is the side of the church, and this is the real famous church in downtown. I won't try to pronounce it for you, I'll butcher it. Hallgrímskirkja, I think is how you say it. But the reason I picked this, it's not for its aesthetic qualities or it's not for its popularity. It's for me and appreciating design elements. This is why I picked it. I have this beautiful sky, but then I found this wonderful curving design element to use with the sky. And this to me is one of my favorites because it shows off a little bit of my artistic vision and how I see the world. And I see a lot of shapes, patterns, textures, and colors. And this is just an example of that. And really, it really spoke to my creative intent and my creative vision right in that moment. So this was one of my best of the best images from 2023. Now another shot from Iceland that I just absolutely love is this particular one. This was, again, before the workshop. And I went out with my partner over there, and we went out chasing the aurora one night. Now, I've shot the aurora before, I've shot stars before, but I've never really worked to combine both of them clearly in one image. And that's what I did here, and this is why I am proud of this image. We found this great little church out in the middle of the countryside and set up for just this fantastic shot with the aurora overhead. So this was a shot that's sort of in my best of the best because it combines a couple of different things into one photograph that I hadn't done before. And so I'm proud of my accomplishment for this. So, you can see a little bit of how I'm picking some of these photographs. It's not the ones that are most popular or most colorful or tick all the right boxes. These are ones that satisfy my inner artist, my creativity. And this is why I like these photographs. So jumping into another one, this again is another shot from Iceland. I came home with a few favorites from Iceland, and this particular one I really, really liked because it's something different. You don't often see the backside of horses. Now, these Icelandic horses, of course, if you've ever been there, they're the most friendly, wonderful horses on the planet. And the hair that they have is so beautiful. And we had this really nice side light happening in the morning. And all these horses were lined up to feed at the hay bales. And I thought this was sort of a unique shot and would make a fantastic panorama, which it did. And it turned out to be one of my favorites, again, because it's unique, it's different, it showed my creative vision, and it's one that I'm really happy with. It gets people to stop as well because, again, people don't often see the butt end of horses, and so this is one that really made people stop and appreciate this photograph. So jumping over to the Oregon coast, here is one that I absolutely loved from last year. Couple things going on here that really touch me. Number one is the simplicity. There's very few elements in this photograph, so it's very simple. I really think that simple can be extremely strong, and so I work to simplify a lot of my photographs. Whether they're complex scenes or very simple scenes like this, I really strive for simplicity because it helps my message as an artist come through. So simplicity, number one. Number two, this really strong diagonal line going from the upper left to the lower right. That's a wonderful design element. You know, yes, this is seaweed, yes, this is sea foam, but I'm looking at this as parts and pieces of a composition and dissecting that for why I like this. And I also do this dissection when I'm out in the field. I break down a scene into constituent parts and then put those parts back together into a composition that I find pleasing. So this is one that I just absolutely love. Strong design lines, lots of visual interest with the bubbles, the sea foam, and just a cool piece of seaweed. So this was one of my favorites of 2023. Still staying on the coast was this one. This was sort of an unexpected surprise. I took one of my workshop groups down to a fishing harbor, which is one of my favorite things to do, and there's all sorts of textures and colors and shapes to photograph in fishing harbors. And I happened to photograph this scupper, or this hole in the side of the boat with a mooring line coming through it. And the contrast between the turquoise of the metal and the white of the boat was extremely striking for me when I got home and looked at this on my computer. Now, again, it's simple. I've got a strong diagonal line. I've got some beautiful contrast between the color and the white. I've got a very pleasing shape, and it was a unique shot that I hadn't done before. And since this time, I've gone on to do a whole study of these scuppers on fishing boats down from Bandon, Winchester Bay, Newport, all of these fishing harbors along the Oregon coast. I've made a point to now do a study, and I've got a whole portfolio of images of these types of shots, different shapes, different color combinations, but just sort of enhancing a theme. Because this shot was so resonant with me, I chose to actually take it and run with it and see what other types of creativity I could come from this type of shot. Moving along, this is one that was also shot in a fishing harbor. And again, this is a stainless steel cable with a guide alongside some rusty chain. So I've got this contrast in color. I've got a contrast in texture. I've got repeating patterns of the braid of this cable, which is wonderful. I've got a beautiful fall off of sharpness to softness from foreground to background. I love the way the bokeh happens in this shot. And, I tell you folks, this is one of those shots for me. I took it, I liked it, but it wasn't until I got home and saw it on the big screen that I went, wow, this is something special. And, there's sometimes, even though I do everything right technically in the field, sometimes there's an image that just jumps off the screen. And for me last year, this was one that absolutely jumped. I think it was the tonalities, the textures, the colors, everything just came together where the end result was greater than the individual parts just sort of put together. There was some symbiotic thing that happened that just made this a fantastic shot for me. As a subject matter, it's neither here nor there, but to me, it's the color and the tones in this shot, not necessarily the subject. So this was one of my top 3, top 5 shots of 2023. One more from the coast was this starfish. Now, a few years ago, a lot of the starfish had died off along the Oregon coast. There was a disease that went through, but they really come back. And this year, when during my workshop there on the Oregon coast, this was one of the shots that I captured that I absolutely loved. I don't often see starfish folded in half like this. Usually they're splayed out and you can see all the 5 legs. This was a very different pose for a starfish. And so that instantly grabbed my attention. It was something different. So something different. I'm always looking for things that are different. The other thing that really grabbed me with this scene was that there was enough distance between the starfish and the background that I knew I could get some separation, and I could darken the background to such a degree that I could isolate the starfish. So this was a fantastic setting for me to capture a photograph. And I shot this starfish at several different apertures. I was using my Fujifilm GFX 50S in a 120 millimeter macro. And so my depth of field was fairly shallow, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a fairly shallow depth of field. And I wanted, of course, the front of the starfish to be tack sharp, and then I wanted the softness to start happening until I got to sort of the back end of the starfish, and I wanted it to be very soft. Because I knew I was going to black out the background, everybody's focus needs to stay right in here. And I can do that with light, and I can do that with sharpness. We tend to look at the sharper parts of an image, and so I knew that viewers' eyes were going to stay up front where it's the sharpest. But this is another one where it was a little bit of happenstance that I found this particular starfish. It was in the right setting, but when I was there photographing this, I knew what I wanted to do as an end result, and it came out exactly as I hoped and as I planned. So you can see, a lot of these photographs are about, again, my artistic satisfaction, my ability to execute in the field, my vision for everything from pre-capture to capture through post-processing. When those things all come together, it's a photograph that I'm typically quite proud of. Now, moving off to Monument Valley in Arizona. This was a shot that I loved, mainly because I technically executed it extremely well. This is sort of a popular location. This is the totem pole and the Three Sisters, and you get this sand dune right in front of you. You get down low and get the sand dune in front. You get these really nice leading lines taking your eye back to the totem. We were fortunate enough that a rainstorm had come through a few days before, and so all of the foliage was really green. So having the green and red color combination really makes the colors pop in this photograph. I did a great job, if I don't mind saying so myself. It's sharp front to back. The sky had a little bit of visual interest in it, those little puffy clouds. There's a little bit of magenta happening. This was pre-sunrise. And this is just a shot that I'm quite proud of from a technical execution perspective and positioning of the foliage in front of the totem in such a way that I find it very, very pleasing. Another one from Monument Valley I absolutely love. This isn't about the subject. This is about the texture and the tone. And again, like that previous shot with the rusty chain and the stainless cable, there's something about this that just came together that jumps off the screen. When you see it on a big screen, it looks fantastic. The texture and tone of the dirt around here, this red soil, is beautiful. This is a juniper branch that's partly buried. And look at the motion. These cracks all imply motion. It's movement in a static object. So I've got movement, I've got the texture of the wood, I've got the tonality of the wood, the story that the wood tells. This aged, weathered wood, it tells a story. And so I've got a lot of different things going on here that really make this a pleasing photograph for me. Now, you may or may not like these photographs, and that's fine. These are the ones that I picked as my personal favorites, regardless of popularity or rules or anything else. These are the ones that really speak to me from 2023. All right, so here's another one from Monument Valley. I loved this shot because I found this root growing amidst the cracks in the sandstone, in the rocks. And again, this speaks to my ability. I saw this and knew I wanted to capture it. Why? Because of the contrast of this living root, or once living plant, amidst the impermeable nature of rock. So you've got life amidst this solid foundation of rock. Plus, I have this wonderful line design element coming down the middle of this. There's a slight curve to it. So from a design language perspective, it works extremely well. I chose to put this right, especially the end point, right in the middle of the photograph, from left to right. I wanted to end there because I knew the top was going to start a little bit off center, which is fine. We generally start looking at things top to bottom, left to right. Sometimes in photographs, when we have landscapes, we'll start at the bottom, at the foreground. But in a shot like this, typically people will start at the top and follow something down to the bottom. So if the top of this was in the middle of the photograph, it might not have worked as well as being just a little bit off center and then being able to end in the photograph. Next shot, absolutely love this shot. This is Mono Lake in the Eastern Sierras of California, and I had my workshop group there one morning, and there was this beautiful sunrise that was happening off to the east, and we were all lined up on the shore of the lake. And as I was talking to folks, we were watching the sunrise. I happened to just pause in what I was doing and started to look around, because I know for me, my vision is not the bright shiny object that's in front of me, the sunrise or the sunset. It's all of the other stuff. I love the way the light falls across the landscape. I look for unique opportunities with light. And as I was standing there on the beach, leaning on my tripod, I looked down and saw this scene. And I saw the color that was being reflected off the surface of the lake. I saw those little twigs sticking up out of the water, and I saw this beautiful line happening where the lake met the beach. And I knew that that was my photograph from that morning. Took a lot of different compositions, different placements of this line, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Raised my tripod up to look down a little bit, lowered my tripod to get a little bit flatter, get a little bit more water in the back. And out of all of those, this is the one that I chose. Absolutely love this photograph. It's simple, it's still, it's serene, it's calm, it's pleasing, it's design. It is a lot of things that really resonate with me as a photographer. All right, so just 2 more to go, but you can see where I get some of my passion. It's simplicity, it's design, it's light. Those types of things are the things that really speak to me as an artist and things that I enjoy photographing. This is from Grand Teton National Park this year, just a couple of months ago. Love this shot for a couple of reasons. Of course, the really dark blue-gray sky in the background is a nice contrast to the frost-covered trees. But the contrast between this tree and the dark background really stands out. Very simple, very clean. I made a conscious effort to include horizontal lines as an element. You may not notice it, but look at the line of snow here at the bottom, and then look at the line right before the foliage, and then the line of the foliage, and then the line of this landscape line, and then I have the line of the trees. I've got this repeating pattern happening right here in the front of the photograph. And we as humans love repeating patterns, so this is something that really kind of resonated and spoke to me as kind of my choice as an artist to include these types of elements in shooting a beautiful landscape. I still was thinking very much as a designer. And then lastly, from Grand Teton National Park is this photograph. Why do I love it? It's the decisive moment. The decisive moment where all three of the animals are looking up. You can see all three of their eyeballs here, here, and here. The antlers are beautifully interlocked. Got great space between these two noses. To me, this was the decisive moment, and it was one that I was very pleased to capture. I love this shot. You know, of course, we're on high-speed burst. We shoot a lot of frames. But this is one that I came away with, which was my favorite wildlife shot of the year. So there you go, folks. There's my in-depth look at just a few of my favorites from 2023 and why they're my favorites. So if you like this video, if you like this channel, please feel free to subscribe down below. Tickle the bell so you'll get notified of any new releases that I do. Thanks for watching. I appreciate any comments that you might have about these photographs. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.